All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. We will officially kick off the City of Manvel third annual Budget Town Hall. We started this, I guess, technically 2.5 years ago as a way to engage with the community, to let them know about the budget in a more simplified way. Our council meetings can go very long, 5, 6, sometimes 7 hours, where we have a lot of robust discussion about the budget. And sometimes not everyone wants to watch all of that. So we have put together this town hall where tonight it will be myself, our city manager, Dan Johnson, as well as our director of finance, Miss Rosie here, presenting key components of the budget, explaining what is a municipal budget, where do your taxes go, and what do we do with your money, the people's money. We have a good audience here tonight, more than usual, so appreciate each of you coming out. We are recording this, and it will be posted online after the fact. I do want to acknowledge our elected officials who are here tonight. We have Councilwoman Crystal Sarmiento, thank you for being here. Councilman Garrett Rossi Knox, thank you for being here. Councilman Harry Oplager, thank you for being here, sir. And we also have Councilman Keith Bonner in the back. We have one of our Economic Development Corporation board members, Mr. Donald Atkinson, and we have Miss Mary Ann Atkinson, who serves on our Planning, Development, and Zoning. Thank you guys for being here. To get us started, we're going to first have our city manager, Dan Johnson, come up and present.
Thank you, Mayor. And while we're introducing people, I think it's important to introduce our directors that have put a lot of time and effort into developing this budget for this coming fiscal year. So obviously we'll meet Rosie here in just a minute. Our finance director, also our personnel director, Chad Dumont, is in here. Our public works director, Robbie Hall. Our director of public safety, Chief Traylor. I'll say it, Chief Keith Traylor. There we go. Our Development Services Director, Jose Abraham. And who else am I missing? And, our City Secretary, Tammy Bell. So thank you all for all of the work that you all have put together to put this budget together. The mayor just talked about our council members. There are 2 other ones as well. So altogether we have 6 council members and a mayor. So we are city manager form of government. So all 7 council members have a vote, of course, have a say in when things get considered at the council level. And so let's talk about our goal. So our goal for the budget town hall is simply to familiarize the residents with the budget process, talk about some of the revenue sources, and talk about how our expenses are determined. First question is, what is a municipal budget? And for that, I will happily turn it over to Rosie. Rosie?
I'm a little bit shorter. What is a municipal budget? Basically, the municipal budget is an official document that guides the city on how they can spend and how much money we receive. The budget is composed of your revenue sources, which is the money that we receive to pay our bills. Our expenditures are actual expenses that we pay, in other words, our bills. Debt service. Debt service is money that we take out to do construction, like our bonds, and we have to put part of the property taxes into the debt service to pay for those bonds. Anything that's called a reserve fund is because council said we're going to do this project, and this money is reserved particularly for that. We cannot use it for anything else. It would take a council vote to be able to move those monies. Capital projects. We have various capital projects going on. As you can see, the city's growing in leaps and bounds also. We have a new public safety building. We're in the process of building a public works, the new water tower, quite a few other projects, and they'll talk about that a little bit better. We have inter-fund transfers. In other words, sometimes general fund will transfer some money to another fund to help them out. And again, before we do those kind of things, council has to approve some of those budget transfers. What is a fiscal year? A fiscal year is the same thing like almost your tax year. You guys have it from January the 1st to December 31st. The fiscal year for the city starts October the 1st and ends September the 30th. And this is regardless of what happens, that's when it starts and that's when it ends. Our budget development time is all year long. We start from about January to February to start reviewing the expenses that we have here today to see if we're going to need to make any major adjustments, go in front of council to request more money. If we receive more revenues, maybe we can add more positions or buy some of that equipment that our different departments start. And then by August 31st, no, July 31st, we have to present the first budget to council. It's a very preliminary budget because we probably haven't even received the property tax rates at that point. After that, we review it, we back and forth before we actually submit the final budget, which should be hopefully September the 2nd this year. But we'll let you know when. At that point, council needs to decide on what tax rate we're going to do so that we can actually modify any line items that we have to. Last year, for the general fund, we adopted a little over, well, almost $15,800,000 for the different revenues coming in. Revenues that we receive are the property tax, licenses and permits, sales tax, franchise fees, transfers in from other from other funds, and we have other sources, a cost of service, interest, fine, and fees from the court. This year's budget proposal is that we're anticipating over $17 million of general fund revenue. And of course, the biggest revenue that we're planning on is property tax, and then licenses and permits, sales tax being the third one. What are taxes? Mayor?
I get the privilege of explaining to you guys what are taxes, and we all know at its core, taxes are what we pay as a part of the social contract that we have to live within a city. If you live within the county, you have a different set of taxes that you might pay, or depending upon which municipal or local jurisdictions you live in, dictate what taxes you pay. Who collects the city of taxes here within Manvel? Most residents in Manvel pay taxes to these 7 entities. Depending on where you live determines which entities you pay your taxes to. A lot of times, I get asked the questions, I know council and city staff does, about why is it the city of Manvel is not able to do A, B, and C because I pay $17,000, $18,000 a year in property taxes. It's important to recognize that the city of Manvel makes up only a small portion of your overall tax bill. So you do have the city of Manvel, you have Brazoria County, Alvin Independent School District, Alvin Community College. Then you have some residents of our city that live within a municipal utility district, otherwise known as a MUD. Many times that is just these new subdivisions that you see come in that pay a tax to the municipal utility district that goes to service debt that is issued to pay the developer back for infrastructure costs that are put in up front. So a lot of the new subdivisions that have come in over the past 15 years or so, Rodeo Palms, Lakeland, Terra Estates, Blue Water, Del Bello, the infrastructure was not there, the streets, the pipes in the ground, stop signs, sidewalks, that was not there, put in by the city, that was actually put in by the developer, and the MUD is a reimbursement to the developer. But not everybody in Manvel lives in a municipal utility district. Pretty much all of Manvel is in a drainage district. We have 3 drainage districts. We have Conservation and Reclamation number 3, Drainage District 4, and Drainage District 5. There is a section of Manvel that's right off of Hanselman. We refer to it as no man's land because that is the one area, it includes Gates Loop, streets off of Hanselman, that is not in a drainage district. There have been 2 different attempts by citizens in the area to be annexed into a drainage district that ultimately failed, as it would have to be a vote at the ballot box. But everywhere else in Manvel is in a drainage district, and everywhere in Manvel is within the Emergency Service District number 3. This is actually the largest service district in the state, goes over into Alvin, Manvel, Iowa Colony, Danbury, Liverpool, a lot of other places are covered by it. So your ESD is what provides your services for fire. You have a lot of volunteer fire departments that are also supplemented through the ESD. and you have your ambulance service. So unlike for the city of Manvel, unlike Pearland, which has a full-time city-funded fire and EMS, that is not the case here within the city of Manvel. There are some people in Manvel, and it's not called out on this screen, that are also paying taxes to the Port of Freeport. That is just the very southern edge of our city limits. Now, the Port of Freeport recently zeroed out their maintenance and operation portion of their tax rate, so they just still have the portion that's being used to pay off some debt. Here is our tax rate history. This is actually a slide that our city manager, who is phenomenal with spreadsheets and dates, put together a few years back to analyze going all the way back to 2000 on the far left side, looking at what the tax rate has been over the years. So you can see in 2000, the tax rate was at 75 cents, dropped down over 2 years, shot back up to 71 cents. It then held pretty steady for quite a few years at 58 cents and 57 cents. And then in 2018, for fiscal year 2019, it jumped up by 12 cents, has been working its way down since then, and has held at 56 cents for the past 2 years. The tax rate that is proposed as a part of the budget right now is 56 cents. The most that council could raise the tax rate, if there was a decision to raise it, would be to 58 cents. But right now, the budget currently has it at 56 cents. Now, the city of Manvel does provide to you specifically for your city taxes that you pay a few different homestead exemptions that you would see here on the screen. For quite a few years now, the exemptions of veteran, over 65, disabled veteran, and a disability exemption have been in place. Last year, the city of Manvel voted on city council to implement a 10% homestead exemption that would be for every homesteaded property within Manvel city limits. The state allows you to go up where you could set it all the way up to 20% of whatever your value is. The city of Manvel, we weighed out a few different options, and we chose for 10% at that time. Now, this is a graphic that I love to look at because it's a real-life scenario. We take a look at a random home within the Blue Water Lake subdivision right off of Highway 6, and we break it out with this very pretty, colorful graphic to show you, for somebody that lives inside of Blue Water Lakes, what is the segments of their tax bill and where does it go? So based off of this home that we looked at and the value that the home is at, the different tax rates that are being proposed, for this home, 36% of their tax bill would go to Alvin Independent School District. 26% of their tax bill goes to MUD 66. Only 17% of their tax bill would go to the city of Manvel. 8% to Brazoria, 6% to Alvin Community College, 5% to the Drainage District number 3, CNR number 3, and 2% to ESD, the Emergency Service District. This is usually how it plays out, where if you're in a MUD, the city of Manvel portion of your taxes is usually third, and then if you do not live within a MUD, it usually bumps up to second. Now we're going to talk about what do we provide with our portion of the taxes that you pay, and this is an item that our Finance Director, Rosie, is going to cover.
What do we pay? We pay our bills, basically, and the vast majority of our investment of our funds go into public safety. Some of them go to the public works for your streets, drainage, fire marshal's office, emergency management, code enforcement, police department, finance, administration, IT, personnel. And basically, it's the admin part of it also. Public safety total is 44% because here in Manvel, the safety of our residents is a primary concern. You saw this earlier on. It's where we're at right now. On September the 2nd, we will be doing our first budget hearing. September the 15th, we'll do our tax rate hearing. And then the last part will be the approval of our next year's fiscal budget.
Thank you, Rosie. So in fiscal year 2024, the theme of our budget was back to the basics. Last year, the theme was building trust. This year, in keeping with the B's, it is better together. And a sneak peek of what the covers will look like for this year's budget, better together. So thank you, Blake, for putting that together for us. And the idea there, better together, what does that mean? Actually, we talked about this Monday night at council. So if you'll imagine a triangle for a minute, and you've got the citizens ultimately elect their city council, their mayor and council. And then in order to do the job, the city council, of course, they've got their own jobs, a day-to-day job in a lot of cases, or they may be retired, but they're not expected to be up at City Hall all day long. So they hire a staff of professionals. And right now we have a little over 100, almost 115 people on staff to help manage all of the different departments that Rosie just talked about. So the better together, part of it is that just relationship between all three of us. We're all trying to aim towards the same goal of making Manvel an incredible place, an awesome place to live and to work and to shop and to ultimately go to parks and all these other things that we want in a beautiful community. So that's the theme, is better together for this year. Let's talk for a minute about some common misconceptions. I'm going to identify, I guess, three specifically. Number one is that funds can be spent on anything. So Rosie showed you the revenues, and it's a great amount of revenue, no question about it. The ad valorem taxes and the water and sewer bills that the funds that we collect for those. But there are different funds associated with each different type of thing. So we couldn't, some folks in our city are not on city water and sewer. They've got their own well and septic. So it would be inappropriate to charge them what people on public city water pay for, their water meter, and to have people come out and check their meters, and to also make sure that water is provided safely to their home. They have a water well for that. So that's a utility fund, and only utilities, water and sewer utilities, can be paid for. We can only spend money out of the utility fund on utility-related expenses. Another misconception is that funds can be easily moved around. That's not so true either. Within a department, there's some flexibility. If for some reason, say a director had money left over in minor tools and equipment, but they really wanted to send one of their staff to a training opportunity, they could possibly move money around in there. So within a department, not too hard, but from one department to the next. So say if one of our departments was for whatever reason coming in very light towards the end of the year, we couldn't just move all that money to another department without council's approval. And the third one, I think this is the biggest one. I've seen this firsthand in another community that I worked in years ago. Surplus funds are spent immediately. So obviously we try and be good stewards of the taxpayers' funds. And it's all based on projected revenues. So if for whatever reason, if the revenues aren't there, well, the expenses can't be there either. So you can't just because you budgeted these expenses, you have to be very methodical throughout the year, because what happens if the HEB didn't come in for whatever reason? What happens if the Lowe's doesn't come in at the end of the year like it's projected to? So we have to be very, very good stewards of that, and it's a weekly, monthly analysis. So just because it may seem like you have some funds left over, you need to hold on to those. Let's see what it's going to look like towards the end of the fiscal year, which we're just a little bit over a month from the end of this fiscal year. So if there are funds left over, praise the Lord, they'll roll over to next year. If our fund balance, which is kind of our savings account, if that is getting less than the 50% threshold that council set, then those funds will roll into that. If the fund balance is at 50% and we, for whatever reason, didn't need the rollover to the next year's budget, then there's opportunities. Hey, there are some capital projects that the citizens would really like to get done. Let's use these funds on that particular road. And that could be a lot of different things. I remember a couple years ago, Iowa Lane was an old gravel road, and that was something that council said, this is getting out of hand. This is ridiculous. Let's go ahead and move some money out of savings, and let's fix Iowa Lane once and for all. In the earlier forum that we had tonight, the town hall with TxDOT. Maria talked about the Jordan and Clark Bridge, kind of the same thing. That was a multi-jurisdictional project, and so our portion wasn't something that we had budgeted for, but we were able to move money from savings, from fund balance over to help out with that. So anyway, those are just a couple of misconceptions I thought I would share with you. And then there's one other thing really to keep in mind, I guess. When you're looking at the overall revenues, you look at all of these new homes coming to Manvel, and you're wondering, gosh, why aren't we further along? Why don't we just have, I don't know what it would look like, I guess, just dollars, floating around in a room somewhere. Well, there are several developments that have an incentive program built into them. These are probably the biggest four right here: the Valencia development, the Del Bello Lakes development, Manvel Town Center, of course, and Meridiana. So what you can see is past councils have said, hey, we want these developments here. We don't have the infrastructure for you. Meridiana, as an example, think about Meridiana Parkway. Think about that bridge that goes over the railroad tracks. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, even now, there is no way in the world that the city could have afforded to do all that infrastructure. So over the years, all the way up until 2050, so it's about a 40-year program with Meridiana, that developer will slowly get paid back over $100 million. And how they do that is from the ad valorem taxes. So any new home in Meridiana, those property taxes go right back into that development. So the city of Manvel doesn't see a dime of the ad valorem taxes that goes back to the development. Now we have sort of commonly called a clawback clause in that contract, where we get a little bit to help out with servicing, because obviously even though they have their own water and sewer system, our city police and public works folks do have to respond to folks in Meridiana. So there's a little bit that we get to help us out with that. But anyway, this is a pretty staggering number. As you can see, the total incentive deduction is 170, so almost $200 million that the city is helping out to get those developments off the ground. Manvel Town Center, that's of course where HEB and where Lowe's is going to go. There was no water and sewer out there when they first came to town, so they had to spend a lot of extraordinary costs up front to get those projects off the ground. So I'll turn this back over to the mayor to close us out.
One of the things that we like to do is look back at what we've accomplished over the past year, have gratitude and appreciation and retrospective, looking at the things that have gone well, the things that haven't gone well. Many times you get caught up in the day-to-day tasks and the challenges and the issues that you face. But taking a step back allows us to recognize that a lot of progress has been made and we've been able to accomplish a lot of good things. Taking a look back over this past year, we have officially completed our new police station, which is called the Keith Traylor Criminal Justice Center. This is going to house our public safety departments, and it is the building for the future. So when we look at some of the buildings that are built now, like this building was completed that we're in right now in 2021, and we're already busting at the seams. So when we build buildings, we have to think not just about the here and now, but where do we want to be 50, 75, 100 years from now? And the council that I have the privilege of serving with do a really good job about thinking for the future, not just the present. With the expansion or the new building for the police department, as well as the upcoming public works facility, which we will have to figure out a name for that. I know we have Mary Ann and Councilman Oplager that serve on our naming committee. We'll figure out what that name is going to be in the future. But we expanded water and sewer up 1128 and also along Lewis, which created an opportunity for people to connect to the system that wanted to connect, but didn't have an opportunity to previously do that. We officially, as you've seen driving on traffic in 288, maybe sitting in traffic, I should say, along 288, that the beautiful new water tower is up. I never thought growing up I would be this excited about a water tower, but I had the privilege to actually climb up to the top of it and see it. My wife was very, very nervous about that, but thankfully I survived. She made me up my life insurance policy before it, and I survived. But it is a beautiful symbol of you are now in Manvel. We've heard so much, and one of the reasons why we're doing the monument entrance signs is people say, I live in Pomona, or I live in Lakeland, or I live off of Hanselman, and you don't hear them say, I live in Manvel. And we are very focused on establishing pride for the community that we all call home. So seeing that Manvel sign, founded in 1857, there was no better name to name it after than the Booth family, who originally settled in Manvel and got our history started. In February of this past year, we adopted our 20-year strategic plan, which we call it Future Manvel. This has been a lot of work making sure that we translate our image forward, as Councilman Rossi Knox talks a lot about. People have told us they want to see the rural areas of Manvel remain rural, and they want to see growth and development happen and strategically have it placed along 288 and Highway 6. They want to protect the image of Manvel, and we don't want to just keep bringing in all the same box stores or all the same restaurants. We want to be very strategic about what we bring in. And this plan allows us to, if followed, and this council has made a commitment to follow it, to be where we want to be 20 years from now. Now, a big item that's mostly complete, Ms. Heidi, we still got a little bit of work to do here, but by the end of 2025, we will have no more gravel roads within the city of Manvel. We completed the two biggest roads left, which was Belcher and Oilfield. Now they're right off of Pine Street. There are, I think, one or two that are right there too that will be completed, that Robbie and his team are doing a phenomenal job of. You've also seen that we're partnering with a contractor to do work along Lewis Lane, and we're just running and gunning. The team's working hard. Robbie does a great job with that, as well as Patrick, who is our street superintendent, and the team is just killing it there. We appreciate each and every one of them. The other item here is the Acre Lake dig. And if you're not familiar with this project, this is our regional detention facility. It is at the southwest corner of 1128 in Jordan. It is 117 acres, about 80 to 90 acres worth is going to be used for regional detention. As was mentioned in the meeting with TxDOT, 288 and Highway 6 is considered an emergency evacuation route for the state. It's an issue if your emergency evacuation route floods during significant storms that may come through. So this project, it's not going to be something that happens overnight. It's going to be a lot of work, but this is going to be a huge relief for State Highway 6 from a flooding perspective. What's really unique about this project, and this is a kudos to our city manager, Dan Johnson, as well as our city attorney, Bobby Gervais, they looked at this contract creatively, and they said, this is a big area of land. There's going to be a lot of digging, and dirt can be a profitable business. So we were able to go through an RFP process, and we are partnering with Sand, a company called Sand, Sprint Sand and Mining Company. And what they're going to do is they are going to dig out the detention facility for us, and they are paying us a monthly lease for that, as well as they're paying us a certain percentage or dollar amount of every loose cubic yard that we sell. Projections show us right now that we paid about $2.5 million for the land, and throughout the life of the project, if it holds true, the city will bring in, as a part of this revenue sharing, about $6 million. That's how we make wise use of the taxpayers' dollars, find creative sources of revenue to come in and not have to be fully dependent just on property tax. So we're really excited for that project, for what it's going to entail, and that is named after the Acre family in honor of not just Larry Acre, but his late wife, Sharon Acre. We have quite a few projects that are actively in the works, or we're going to look to get started here within the next fiscal year. One that you've seen is our water reclamation facility. That's a nice and fancy way of saying a wastewater treatment plant, but it is a membrane plant. It's a newer technology to use for your wastewater system. This is located just to the east of Blue Water Lakes. It's going to be a 1 million gallons per day plant. The way that it works, not to get too technical, but for your wastewater discharge, you have a permit that you have to get through TCEQ, which is the Texas Commission of Environmental Quality. And once you reach a certain percentage of your allowed discharge, it triggers where you would have to start planning and eventually building either an expansion of your current facility or a brand new facility. And if you don't do that, then you have to place a moratorium on all development. This is residential development and commercial development, all across the board. So we've all worked together with EDC, with staff, with council to plan for the future, and this is actively under construction. I believe it's been under construction about 12 months now, so about 1 year, and it is a 3-year project that is going to continue moving forward. We do have, and this is through debt that was issued in March of 2023, we do have funding, about a little over $6 million, that is going to be used for a city hall expansion. Basically, think of this building that we're in now. There's going to be another one built here at right next to City Hall to continue to handle and prepare for the growth that we are seeing. With that, we also have secured land directly behind City Hall. That part of that funding that we have for the City Hall expansion is being used for what we have called now Heritage Park, which is going to be right behind City Hall. It's going to have a pavilion, a gazebo, playground for kids, walking trails. It has to have some area for dry detention, and we're going to use that multi-purpose also for a dog park. So those are two exciting projects that are coming up. One that has been alluded to here is our Public Works facility. And I didn't realize, my apologies, I misstated something earlier. We have named our Public Works facility. We named it after Karen Kinlaw, who was very involved in EDC, very involved in our local volunteer fire department. She passed away last year, and in honor and memory of her, we named the Public Works facility after that. I believe we're getting close to finalizing the contract to continue to move forward with construction for the facility. It stalled earlier this year after the previous contractor closed its doors. So staff and Robbie, the entire team, has been working diligently to get this agreement in place so that way we can continue to move forward and get Robbie and his team the building and the space that they very much deserve. Two other items to highlight: sidewalk improvements. We are projecting right now that Public Works is going to construct approximately 11,800 feet of sidewalks, primarily focused around our schools for safe passage of students. You saw some of it talked about with TxDOT. They'll be working on a project in 2027, and we are coordinating with the school district to see what money that they have available in order to help us continue to expand our sidewalks and build a safe community for our kids. The last item on this slide that you'll see is our Manvel Fall Music Festival. We're all very excited about this one. You know, Bobby's been talking about this for years now. He's a big music guy. He's our music guru, about having a festival here within Manvel. And by partnering with and utilizing some of our HOT tax funding, it's our hotel occupancy tax funding, we have partnered with a third-party organization to help us plan Manvel's first ever fall music festival. We've had Councilman Bonner, as well as our Mayor Pro Tem, who is here, David Lands, that have been working with the team to strategize and plan and come up with what this looks like. And so you're going to start to see more promotional information come out on social media about this. It is going to be held at Croy Park, which is right south of Pomona, north of where most people know where New Hope Church is. So that's where the park is, just north of that. We're going to have a vendor's market. We're going to have food trucks. We're going to have activities for kids. We're going to have music. We're going to have a beer and wine garden. It's going to be a great time, and would love to see each and every one of you there. And at that point now, we will open it up to questions that any of you might have. We did get one question that was submitted in advance, but the individual who submitted it, Miss Christie, is here, so she was just prepared. She was prepared just in case. And Dan, you might be able to speak to this one a little bit from a budgeting perspective. Yes. Oh, you dropped the phone and hit send. Well, we'll let you, Miss Christie, we'll let you ask your question here.
Was there a budgeted line for trash pickup by a person or people instead of the citizens doing it? Is this something that has a budgeted line for that? Yeah.
So in case you didn't hear that, we don't have directly a budgeted line for it. We do have a line for mowing, and I know our Public Works crew, as they go out there before they mow, they're looking for trash to pick up the trash instead of just cutting it all up. We do have a group of people that are going to be starting Keep Manvel Beautiful that will be organizing trash cleanup days, and there'll be a nonprofit that you can donate to that will help fund their efforts and initiatives. But that's certainly something to consider as we move forward into the future. I know there's been partnerships in the past with different organizations and even the prison system to do cleanup days at Croy Park and in other areas of town. So there are certainly opportunities there that we can look at.
Also, we're looking into getting a street sweeper, so that will help definitely in the different subdivisions.
Yes, absolutely. We all love that street sweeper. We have a question back. Miss Heidi.
Yeah, Heidi Zemer. I'm sure you're aware that there's no parking here when we have meetings, right? It's full, the lot's full. So when the city hall's expanded, what's the accommodation for increasing parking spaces?
Absolutely. I think our city manager can speak to that question.
Take that one. So one thing that's going to happen is whenever you go around City Hall, the old City Hall next door, that's going to wrap around to the parking lot. So that's part of it. And then also along Large itself, like back behind where Stripes is, that's going to have on-street parking the whole way, basically from Masters all the way to Palmetto. Yes, ma'am.
I have one more question. I don't know if this is the appropriate place. I live behind Cameron's, and I'm sure they're very fine people, but it's a junkyard. It's very loud. It can be, I often watch the water run off of it in a huge rain and wonder what kinds of things are in the water. And, you know, we have a chemical plant right next to us. We have, you know, a wood I guess a lumber yard that frequently doesn't look great, to be honest. We have the pipe fitting. I guess what I'm saying is it's not one of the most beautiful parts of Manvel. And so I often, as a citizen, kind of, our area behind it is beautiful. But that section along Highway 6, I think I would really like it if it was thought of differently than other areas, and that city council really gave a lot of thought. I'm not going to call it blighted or undesirable, but I'm going to call it undesirable. I mean, it is sometimes really loud from Cameron's and very, very worrying, the kind of water that runs off of there in a big rain. And with the bayou right there, and it's a challenging area. And I would really like to see the city council designate that area in a special way and understand that maybe, like I was very disappointed about the hotel. I thought that would have been a wonderful hotel to have right there, and the businesses it would attract, and just thinking of it differently, just that section along Highway 6. I would really personally appreciate it as someone who's lived there almost 25 years. It has challenges that other areas maybe don't have, and if it could be treated special. And some of those businesses, you know this, where the library's at, none of those businesses, how many businesses have come and gone out of that one business park, right? So it's a challenged area, commercially, residentially, a lot of challenges. If it could get some special attention, I would really appreciate being involved in that and knowing what the plan is.
Absolutely. So speaking to the budget, last year, council, as a part of the effort that we have to be planning for the future and thinking of the future, we embarked on not only the future Manvel plan, but as a part of that, updating our master thoroughfare plan, and as well as our master comprehensive plan, our overall comprehensive plan. And our PD&Z has been getting presentations and updates on that, really specifically focused on land use. What is that image? What do you want to see? Where is it best for there to be heavy industrial compared to commercial, to more subdivision residential, compared to more country style living, and just rural where it's not developed at all. I believe that the cost for this that we budgeted was about $150,000 for all of these plans. So it's been a very intensive effort. Our Director of Development Services, Joe's, has been helping lead it with Marianne. PD&Z Council has been involved, really taking a look at it and getting an understanding. And here soon, PD&Z will be taking a look at it in its entirety once the draft is finished, making any changes that they would want to see. There'll be public hearings with PD&Z and with council, and then council will have continued discussions around it to take a look at things such as, you know, the businesses like Cameron's and Fagioli's and others have been there a very long time before there was zoning even in place. So now that there's zoning, and also on Highway 6, there's what we have called a special Highway 6 overlay district that has even more very strict requirements for what can and cannot be built. We're going to be looking at additional tools that we can have in the tool chest to make sure that we bring in the right types of businesses, and it's just not a free-for-all.
Yeah, and I don't mean to monopolize it at all, but this is has been on my mind for a long time, and we've talked about it a bit. Can you please involve us? And here's the thing, I'm a statistician, and I don't mean to be at all disrespectful when I say this. I know you guys are dying to have us involved, but we are busy and struggling to just keep our lives together. Personally, I can't believe the amount of time you all spend. And I am listening to these meetings as I'm driving and as I'm doing my housework, listening, and I could never sit and do what you do. So we're so grateful. We're so grateful. And I'm sure no one's more frustrated than you when more people don't get involved. But as a statistician, if the involvement rate is as low as it is, you have to assume it is not reliable. In other words, this master plan that you guys spent all that time and you wanted people to get involved, and it was only a 3% response rate, that means statistically it's not a valid representation of the city. Does that make sense? So I hate to say you have to kind of do it again, but it's, something's got to change because it's not involving all of us, and change the process, or something's got to change because I don't feel like I've had a good voice in Manvel for a while. Not because you haven't welcomed us, it's too time consuming. Maybe short communications, which I know you try. I mean, it's just somehow it has to be less exhausting to live in this growing city, is what I'm saying, as a citizen.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Ms. Heidi. Thank you for your kind words. I know each and every member of council and staff, they put a lot of work into it, and I'm extremely appreciative to be a part of a council that cares and is willing to put in the work. And thank you for listening to our very long council meetings where there's a lot of really good discussion for it. We're always looking for ways, and if you have ideas for how we can involve people, we've tried focus groups, we've tried surveys. I wouldn't say necessarily it's a frustration of mine, but it's a desire to see more people involved. Less than 10% of our voting population actually comes out and votes for us. So the challenge that we have is finding more ways to get people involved, and certainly we're willing to allocate money in the budget to that. At the same time, you can't stop and halt everything from happening because more people don't want to get involved. We're always open to ideas. This is a constant conversation that council has. How can we involve people? How can we get them involved? What are ways? Exactly.
It's not that they don't want to, they can't.
Yes, ma'am.
Lives are too busy and too complicated.
Absolutely. Thank you, ma'am. Any other questions from the public that you might have? Ms. Mary Ann? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, mine is more of an ask, and I know I get up every year and I ask this. I want to give the police department what they need, because yes, safety is our biggest deal. He always has a lot of asks and he only gets maybe a quarter of them. But I know we're really trying as a city to get him what he needs, and with that beautiful building, he needs to be able to make our city as safe and beautiful as he needs to. And the other thing is for Robbie, he needs those machines. If we want our streets to be maintained, if we want him to keep cleaning out the gutters and the ditches and stuff, he needs to have that. So think about that when you do your budget, that the citizens want this stuff, and they need this stuff to make us happy, and then maybe take some stuff off for you guys. But I know it's a lot of money. I know how much machines cost. I know how much people and cars cost, especially for the PD. But keep that in mind, that when they come to you and ask you for the same thing year after year after year, please get them something that they can use. As a community, we really need more people involved. And yes, we need to really think about that, but y'all have involved the community more than any other council, any other kind of thing going on with the city. The past couple of years, you guys in council have really reached out, have really engaged the public, whether it's been social media, in meetings, at Bighorn. I appreciate that, because before we didn't have that. So thank you very much, and get these people with them.
Thank you, Ms. Mary Ann. I'll speak to this for a second, and then Dan, I'd like for you or Rosie to talk about the specifics. But we did at our last council meeting, and this was an idea that Councilman Keith Bonner brought forward, and I know our Mayor Pro Tem David Lands looked at it very intently, was we have, out of the $10 million that we secured for roads, sidewalks, and drainage, we have about $4 million left. And the idea was brought forward by Councilman Bonner to say, can we use some of that to get Robbie the equipment? If we're doing all these road projects and these drainage projects, we need the equipment to keep up with them after they're done. And council was fully on board with that. Councilwoman Crystal Sarmiento was like, yes, like, let's do this. This is a great idea. So looking at that, Dan, could you speak to some of the equipment that council just gave the thumbs up for at our last council meeting that we're going to be securing for Robbie and his team?
Sure, just one moment. I've got a list here. I think there were 9 different things. Yeah, so we were talking about a street sweeper, like we just mentioned a minute ago. I think Rosie mentioned that. A slope mower, a new dump truck, a skid steer or bobcat, in other words, a zero-turn mower, side-by-side, a trailer, and a dump truck. So just basically all of the equipment that it takes to do streets and drainage, essentially. So if we sub everything out, I mean, that's one option, but obviously there are costs involved with having contractors do all of the work. So we want to try and do what we can in-house. In order to do those projects, we need the equipment. So altogether, it was like Mayor said, just a little bit under $1 million. I think the overarching thing there is trying to figure out creative ways to, in a growing community, the revenues aren't where our appetite is, our collective appetite of the community. We want our stuff, we want it now, and we want these things fixed, and we want to fix now, and the revenues just aren't there. They'll get there, but it's going to take us a little bit of time. I don't know if you noticed one of the slides a little bit ago. It showed how close the sales tax is getting to ad valorem tax. Go back a little bit further. Yeah, so, next one.
So if we're looking at 2024, it was about 13%. Ad valorem was 37%.
Yep.
And so then in this year,
so 20 up to 24%. So our sales tax is a real portion of our income. If, like I said, if Lowe's happens, there's talks about some other possible big box type stores coming to Manvel. If those happen, it's conceivable that our sales tax could grow larger than our ad valorem taxes, which we'd all love. We'd love for our ad valorem, our property taxes, to go down. The only way that can happen, though, is if something else replaces it. The expenses don't go away. It's just, where's the revenue going to come from?
absolutely. Good comments there, Ms. Marianne. Any other questions that we might have from the community? And with posting this video online, if you go back and watch it and you have follow-up questions, please reach out to the council members who are here, others that aren't, myself, reach out to staff. We want to answer the questions that you guys have. Looking at this timeline that Ms. Rosie presented of what's next, our budget hearing is going to be where this is a public hearing that anybody from the public can come and speak on the budget. That is going to be September 2nd. We are potentially going to look to have a special meeting to continue workshopping the budget to make sure we give it all the time that it needs. We want to get this right. This is our game plan. This is our book, our strategy for how we can serve the community. Mayor Pro Tem Lands had brought up that idea about holding a special meeting. We then have the tax rate hearing happening on September 15th, and then we would look to, on that same meeting, September 15th, also vote to adopt a tax rate and a budget. So there's going to be a few opportunities for you to get involved, for you to continue to ask questions. As you guys have ideas or suggestions, we want to hear those. I know, Marianne, to your comment about, our police department, the Department of Public Safety, they have a lot of needs. These aren't just wants, these are needs. I know I get hit up very constantly. Can we have a patrol officer over here? Can we have a patrol officer over there? And we only have so much to go around, and him and his staff do a phenomenal job working within the constraints of the resources that they have, and we're all committed to doing what we can to make sure that we partner with our chief and the team to find ways to get them resources.
And then if you take that the next step, so with more police officers, with more public works folks, well, now we've got more people in payroll and with benefits, and more people that have things that come up, whatever it may be. So then our personnel department, our finance department, those grow as well. So that may be the tip of the spear for sure, but then all of the things that go through development services, for goodness sakes, all of these new projects go through less than 10 people. It's a very, very small department. So it's sort of the tip of the iceberg. But public safety and public works is what everybody sees, of course. I just wanted to sort of say that's where not everybody really understands all of the other things. I guess, what is it, like a glacier, right? That's the tip, and then there's all this other stuff that it takes to really move the machine forward.
And what I'll add to what our city manager said, another important thing, and council really works to drive home this point, and staff has embraced this mindset. We don't want to just keep doing things because that's the way it's always been done. If there's different ways of doing it, if there's more efficient ways of doing it, we certainly want to do that. Miss Rosie brought it up during her presentation about her department in front of council at a recent meeting, and our councilwoman Crystal Sarmiento really honed in on this. We have a lot of new utility ratepayers that get added to the system as these new developments get built, and as we extend infrastructure, people connect to it. Well, there's still a lot of paper bills that get sent out. And about a